In this video, I'd like to describe the gross and subtle layers of the physiology. I made a video on this years ago, and making the video opened up my awareness to understand so much more about the topic. And so I've been waiting all this time to actually finally set the record straight. I actually feel that some of the points that I made in that video were not 100% correct. So I would like to go back over the layers of the physiology in a more complete, discriminating, and refined manner, and give it to you in a way that I feel is closer to the truth. All right. So I'm using this picture of an ocean behind me because the ocean is a beautiful metaphor for the way consciousness is structured. The one appears as many, and then it enters into the many, and then it understands the many more deeply, more completely, more profoundly, with better, finer and finer discrimination until it comes back to one. And then there's this realization, oh, it's really just one. And that process is the way that our entire universe evolves. And as humans, we're like a really important part of that process because we sit at the point, if you look at that process, we sit at the point of integration. We sit at the point where the one starts to enter into the many, has entered, and then it starts to understand and discriminate and comprehend and recognize the finer, deeper, more profound, more abstract, and also more true levels of what this reality actually is. And in so doing, there's the realization dawns that it's just one. So human beings, we're like the active principle of that side of the process. And if you look around, this is what we as humans do. We experience reality, and then we understand what we experienced. So it's a very interesting picture. It's very beautiful. But this video is actually about where the human physiology fits into all this. So as I mentioned, my picture of the ocean back here is like a diagram for this process, and to sort of illustrate how the universe is created in layers. But I thought I would also show you this slide, which is words to describe the same thing that we were just looking at. I think I'll use my pen here as a pointer. Levels 7 and 8 equate with the ocean, the infinite, unbounded, eternal, unmanifest source of creation, and quality less. And when I say unmanifest, I mean nothing's come out of this yet. But then right in this gap between 6 and 7, the source of creation starts to break apart. Some laws of nature of separation come into play, and they start to give rise to the layers of what we know of as our physiologies. And in energy healing, we're working with all these layers at the same time, all of them, even down to the source of creation. We're working with all the subtler levels of the physiology because that's where stresses can get lodged. You know, stresses show up at the physical level as problems, but that's not where the origin of the problems is found. The origin of the problems is found deeper, mental, emotional, and then even subtler, sometimes in collective levels at the astral. So I thought I'd just go through these levels one by one and give you a brief description, and then we'll move on to something else. Okay, so physical body is pretty self-explanatory. This is the densest, most concrete level of what we know to be ourselves, and it's comprised of the 5 primal elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. But our bodies are really more than 50% earth element, and that's why they come up looking so physical. And of course, we experience a lot of separation at the physical material level, like I'm over here and you're over there. So physical body is also very well, heavily studied and understood through Western medicine. So I don't feel like I need to give a big description there. 8 years of medical training maybe will give you some better understanding. But what I would like to look at is actually these subtler levels that are more easily accessible to all of us, even without, university training. The etheric body is very similar to the physical body in that it's structured enough that it has defined form. So it looks like our physical bodies. And it feels like our physical bodies. And a lot of what we feel is in the etheric body, actually. The etheric body has the capability of experience almost all the feelings that the physical body has. So hot and cold, pleasure and pain, even enjoyment of the senses, all this comes through at the etheric level, but it's like an energy form of the body. And if you think about the body that you occupy during dream state, that would be a good example of the etheric body. All right, so briefly, and then the mental body. The mental body is comprised of the 4 layers: conscious mind, subconscious, unconscious, and avenue of awareness. And the avenue of awareness interfaces with the etheric body, right? Because it's just that point where we start to really be even more connected to the physical world, is through the sort of etheric version of the senses there. The emotional body is the body of desire. It's where we process our emotions. It's represented by the way the energy moves up through the very deep center of the brain, the nervous system. Nervous system is connected very intimately to all 4 of these layers. And the evolution of consciousness and the evolution of your ability to be a good healer is as much dependent upon the refinement and purification of the nervous system, the integration of the nervous system. That means integrating wholeness with the material, integrating the nervous system. It's as much dependent on that as it is on practices that expand the experience of consciousness and allow consciousness to expand. All right. Also, refinement of the nervous system gives rise to refinement of the senses of perception, so that one can actually directly experience these layers. Between 4 and 5, there's a bit of a gap, because from 1 through 4 are levels of the physiology that we think of associated with the present life and the present body. Layers 5, 6, 7, and 8 are more associated with the aspects of oneself that are not constrained by the laws of nature of the material field. So space and time, for example, don't function. They're not binding. They're not binding at layers 5 through 8 as they are at layers 1 through 4. The astral level, so beautiful and so interesting. And I'm actually going to show you a picture of this one from a dear friend of mine, Harry Alto. Shout out to Harry. He's a great artist. And he drew this amazing drawing. Right here at this point is a little stick figure. I don't know how big your screen is, but it's a little stick figure guy here. And this incredible web of golden threads represents the web of life, and it also represents the entire astral field. I use the word astral field and web of life interchangeably. Basically same thing. And then there are these big, beautiful, interesting areas like this one up here in the corner. I don't know if you can see this kind of interesting, coordinated, organized, orderly section, and these sections in here also represent aspects of the causal body, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And this is very different from my other video. This is why I wanted to show you, and I wanted to more focus on this area. That we normally think of the astral body as being this area just around the physical body like that. But because the astral body is so intimately connected to the entire web of life, you can see it's all really made of the same stuff. It's sometimes based on the way we use our awareness and consciousnness, sometimes it's a bit hard to split hairs where the astral body ends and the web of life begins. And the astral body itself has this ability to expand. So your astral body, if you go out by the seaside, right, by the ocean, your astral body, and you look out, can expand all the way to the horizon. That can happen. If you go into a natural place, the astral body changes shape, it morphs. There's a lot of morphing of space and time at the astral through level 6 through 7. We'll go back there. Yeah, there's a lot of morphing of space-time and the way it bends and shifts and flows, and so is more witnessed. We're not gripped by it, but we can just witness it. And we have some autonomy over how it moves as well. So that's something that's useful in energy healing. All right, let's look at level 6, because this is where this video really differs quite a bit from the previous video that I made. In the previous video, I think I might have used the word, might have given different names to levels 5 and 6. But I'm using the word causal body, although I do feel that the word celestial body works just as well. And in other traditions, it's sometimes called the finest level of feeling. But the causal body is a really important player in the energy healing process, because the causal body sits in the gap between unmanifest being and the manifest field of creation. Just coming back to this frame with a picture of the ocean, it's a little clearer actually when we're actually looking at a visual and looking at the way nature reflects the structure, the subtle structure of the field of life. That what we see is this very interesting dynamic point where the ocean meets the sky. In all photographs, it's a very important point in the photograph. And this is where energy healing is done. Energy healing is actually done in this gap or junction between the unmanifest ocean of consciousness, which provides resources of energy and intelligence and creativity and everything required to heal the body, and then the finest, most delicate expression of the body. That is it's very unmanifest. It's very abstract. It's more like made of pure feeling than it is made of any other material that we can think of. And it's in this gap that awareness locates itself and then oscillates back and forth between the manifest and unmanifest level in order to create little ripples or waves that rise up and create specific changes at the denser levels. And not just at the physical level at the top, but all the way through all these other denser layers of the physiology. So that's the basic principle of looking at the physiology and looking at the whole universe in terms of layers. After all, everything is made in layers. And so it goes to follow that the physiology is made in layers. Thank you for being with me for this description. And thanks for sharing and liking and subscribing and everything. I really enjoy sharing this knowledge. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.